Today, Wizards announced all the changes to the banned and restricted list in Magic. Many expected changes were made, but surprisingly, there were not any bans in Standard, even though many players were asking for changes. The first part of the announcement actually details how they're going to change the timing of bans and restriction announcements in the future. Today's ban occurs right in the middle of the competitive season for regional championships and the Pro Tour, so players who qualified with the deck might not have a piece of it. The new schedule for ban announcements will match the RC and RCQ season, so that changes don't occur in the middle of competitions. Even right now, the Store Championships for Bloomborough started on Saturday, August 24th and will run for the next couple weeks, and the threat of standard bans really affected players' deck choices in the events I've already played in. Officially, the next ban announcement will be on December 16th, 2024, instead of the Dustborn release. Okay, on to some bans now. First up in Standard, which has no changes. The biggest unexpected deck, according to Wizards, was Domain, surviving rotation and evolving to succeed without the Tri-lands. New Typal decks are being played with the additional Bloomborough, and other strategies remain viable. There isn't one deck consuming metashare and warping the format, so there are no changes made. Caverns reprinting in Lost Caverns of Ixalan has really reined in control strategies as well. Many players did expect Atraxa to be banned here to end Domain once and for all, but she's left to roam for another season. People also would still like to see Sheldred the Apocalypse banned, but I haven't seen any strategies using her to really start to take off. She's a very serious threat once she lands on the board, but she isn't really changing the format right now. In Pioneer, there are two bans, Amalia and Sorin Imperious Bloodlord. Rakdos Vampires has risen to a 30% metagame share and has taken over Pioneer. Being able to answer a turn 3 Vein Ripper requires so many resources that even if you remove the Vein Ripper, you put yourself in a position that's difficult to come back from. They specifically say that Sorin was banned over Vein Ripper, as they will likely print other cards in the future that Sorin can play for his discount and don't want to have the same problem all over again. Amalia is being banned for two reasons. One being that the deck has an enormous metagame share, and the ability to recur most of the combo allows the deck to be very consistent. Somewhat worse in the opinion of Wizards is that causing the main combo piece Wildgrowth Walker to become invulnerable and end the game in a draw is an even worse experience for the players. The team went further to consider banning Treasure Cruise and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but wanted to limit the large changes to Pioneer to just two bans for now. Pioneer players will see nearly half the meta move to different decks for the rest of the season, which should be quite interesting. In Modern, there's one very expected change and one desired, but I thought would be unlikely. Nadu Winged Wisdom is banned, and this is wholly expected. The card synergized far better than expected, and the result in the deck becoming a must-play in Modern. Other strategies could potentially win before Nadu combos off, but it was not an enjoyable play experience. I wouldn't even want to be the Nadu player, trying to make sure I initiate each of my interactions correctly during the combo. The Bird is gone, and so is the new combo deck for Modern. The next ban for Modern is Grief. They explain that Grief isn't as present as some other cards in the format, but its use is just the worst play experience. A similar change also happened recently in Lorcana, where the first card was errata just for causing a poor play experience, and not surprisingly, it was a discard trigger much like Grief. The card even being named Grief sounds like the designers knew this would be a pesky thing to play against. There's a discussion about the One Ring and why it wasn't banned, mostly because even though the Ring is a powerful card and is played in many decks throughout Modern, it doesn't represent a huge metagame strategy. Some strategies use the One Ring, but the ring itself is not the base. In Legacy, Grief is banned. Legacy had been more resilient to Grief as it had more cards that block recursion, and using Grief to look at your opponent's hand and remove that card was too powerful. In Vintage, Urza Saga and Vexing Bauble are now restricted. Urza Saga has been widely used in the format, and Wizards did not want to remove it, but it wanted players to not have the benefit of being able to run 4 without any downside. They hope that restricting the card will stop Lurrus decks from taking over the metagame share without impacting many of the other strategies in Vintage. Vexing Bauble is restricted as the card was intended to stop cards like Grief in Modern, but it was not anticipated that a turn 1 Vexing Bauble in Vintage would effectively lock your opponent's most powerful cards out of the game. Lastly, Explorer is still following the same bans as Pioneer, therefore Amalia and Sorin were banned for the same reasons. There are actually a lot of changes in this announcement. Let me know what you think. Did Wizards miss anything, or is making slow changes the better way to approach this? The next announcement will be on December 16, 2024, so keep your eyes out for what starts to grow too powerful, and it may be next. Thanks for watching. Take care.